Today, we're diving into the incredible story of King Solomon. His life, it started with so much promise, but it ended up as maybe one of history's greatest cautionary tales. He was the architect of a golden age and the architect of his own downfall.
So let's just get right to the heart of it. How on earth does the wisest man who ever lived end his life as a total failure? I mean, how does that even happen? That's the huge, fascinating question we're going to unpack today.
To really get the tragedy of the fall, you have to see just how perfect the beginning was. Solomon's reign didn't kick off with some power grab or greed. Nope, it started with this moment of real humility and an incredible gift from God.
When God basically offered him a blank check, anything he wanted, Solomon didn't ask for money or a long life or victory over his enemies. He asked for a lev shomeah, which literally means a hearing heart or a discerning heart, so he could govern his people well. It was the best possible thing he could have asked for, the perfect start for a king.
Now, here's something you got to understand about how this story is told. The biblical writers, scholars call them the Deuteronomistic historian. They aren't just giving us a dry biography. Not at all. They are deliberately shaping this into a powerful morality tale. They show us his perfect beginning to make his later failures that much more shocking and that much more of a lesson for us.
And with that God-given wisdom, Solomon launched an era of peace and prosperity that was just legendary. This was it, the absolute peak, the high watermark for the Kingdom of Israel.
And his crowning achievement, of course, was building the first temple in Jerusalem. I mean, what a project. It took 7 years, the best materials, the best craftsmen. Theologically, though, it wasn't seen as a house for God, because you can't contain God in a building, but as a house for the name of God, a special place where his presence would dwell with his people. And Solomon's power wasn't just spiritual. Oh no, we're talking serious military muscle. He built up a force of 1,400 chariots, which was a huge deal back then. But notice that little detail? Where did the horses come from? Egypt. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but trust me, it's a massive piece of foreshadowing. It's his first little step away from trusting God and towards trusting in human power.
His fame just exploded across the world. The ultimate proof? The visit from the Queen of Sheba. She came to test him, to see if the rumors were true. And after seeing it all for herself, she famously said, "The half was not told me." Basically, wow, the stories don't even do this justice.
But, and there's always a but, isn't there? This golden age had a really dark side. To pay for all this, Solomon brought in crushing taxes and a system of forced labor. And this burden, it wasn't shared equally. It fell mostly on the northern tribes, building up this deep, simmering resentment that would eventually tear the entire kingdom in two. The seeds of civil war were planted right here.
And here's the crucial part. This downfall wasn't some slow, accidental slide. It was a conscious, systematic, and calculated violation of God's own laws for an Israelite king.
See, God had actually laid out a rule book for any king of Israel way back in the book of Deuteronomy. The rules were really clear, and they were all designed to do one thing: keep the king from becoming a tyrant, and make sure he relied on God, not on the usual tools of human power like armies and wealth. And here it is, the whole tragedy, laid out in black and white. It's almost unbelievable. The law said don't multiply horses, but Solomon built a massive chariot army. The law said don't multiply wives, yet he took 1,000 of them. The law said don't pile up silver and gold, but he made it so common, it was like street gravel. It's like he had a checklist of things not to do, and he went right down it, ticking every single box. And what's so wild is that these weren't 3 separate mistakes. They were all connected. It was a perfect system, a self-reinforcing cycle of failure. The foreign wives were for political alliances. Those alliances created trade routes that brought in all the gold. And the horses, the army, they were there to protect those trade routes. Each violation just fed the next one.
So, where did all this lead? Exactly where the old law warned it would. It led to his heart being turned away from God and to the pollution of everything that was supposed to be sacred. I mean, just look at these numbers. It's staggering. 700 wives, 300 concubines, 1,000 women. And the text is crystal clear. It says these foreign wives turned his heart after other gods. His brilliant foreign policy became his spiritual death sentence.
You could actually see this spiritual divide in the geography of Jerusalem. It's tragic. On one hill, the Temple Mount, he built this glorious house for the one true God. But literally right across the valley, on the Mount of Olives,
He built shrines to the pagan gods of his wives. It became known as the Mount of Corruption, a physical monument to his divided heart.
And we're not talking about some harmless, folksy nature gods here. Solomon, the wisest man on earth, used his resources to build worship sites for gods like Chemosh and Molech, gods whose rituals were associated with the absolute horror of child sacrifice. That's how far he fell. It's just breathtaking.
So all of this whole incredible life, it all builds to one final, bitter verdict. And you know who delivers that verdict? Solomon himself.
The book of Ecclesiastes is seen as Solomon's journal at the end of his life, looking back on everything. And this is how he opens it. His conclusion on his entire life's work: vanity of vanities, all is vanity. All the wisdom, all the wealth, all the women, all the buildings, it was all meaningless.
That word, vanity, in Hebrew is hevel. It doesn't mean arrogant. It means smoke, vapor, a puff of breath on a cold day. It's there for a second, and then it's gone. That was his final judgment on his life's work. It was all just smoke. Nothing real, nothing lasting.
And this Hevel wasn't just some philosophy. It played out in history, immediately and catastrophically. The moment Solomon died, all those resentments he'd caused exploded. The kingdom he built, his magnificent life's work, it split right in two, and it was never, ever put back together again. As fleeting as vapor.
So what do we take away from this? Maybe the biggest lesson from the wisest man ever is that wisdom isn't about how much you can get, but about what you're willing to hold back on, what you're willing to say no to. It's about having lines you refuse to cross. And his story kind of forces us to ask ourselves, right? What's my non-negotiable? What's the one thing I refuse to compromise no matter the temptation?